was at a Catholic school, first grade, and Ramblers and Dusters brings back great memories. And King Zessie, it's a wonderful part of Philadelphia's history. So thank you, Joe. It was really wonderful reading, and we really enjoyed it. Another hand for Joe.
Are the numbers going up, the time going up?
I want to ask a question. This is a little quiz to start out this next portion of the reading. And if anybody knows this name, I will buy them a beer. Does anybody know who Thorfinn Karlsson is? Does anybody know that? Does anybody know that name? Well, you know it, and Mike knows it because he wrote an article about this individual who was cast in bronze along the East River Drive. And I don't know if you ever see the Viking statue, but it has a name and a history to it. And Mike, for the Schuylkill Valley Journal, wrote this wonderful article, about this Viking, and even included in this article, I don't know how he infused it, something to do with lyrics from the Led Zeppelin, which is, I think this is very much a Mike Cohen trait. Anyway, our next reader is Mike Cohen. Mike hosts the Poetry Aloud and Alive at Philadelphia's Big Blue Marble bookstore. If you haven't been there, it's a wonderful place in Chestnut Hill next to Weaver's Way. Mike has performed in cafes, libraries, bookstores, and venues from Princeton's Cafe Improv to Harlem's Apollo Theater to Philadelphia's Laurel Cemetery. And performed, right, Mike? Anyway, there's a lot of written about Mike, and there's a lot of things that Mike has written. But I went and I found an interview that Mike did for the Fox Chase Review, and at the end of the interview there were responses, and one individual by the name of Steve Delia, who's I think a friend of yours, you probably asked him to write this, but anyway, he said, a really good interview, engaging questions and thoughtful answers. Mike is always funny as well as philosophical. I can honestly say that when other poets and I speak of the best poets in the area, always every time the name of Mike Cohen pops up. The only thing better than reading Mike's poetry is seeing him read and perform it. He really fires on all cylinders within the dynamics of poetry, the language, the structure of the performance, the laughs. He makes you think and see things in a different way without his work ever being pompous or obtuse. Mike Cohen.
Those are obviously the words of a very good friend. Well, now you know all about Thorfinn Karlsson. Thank you for pointing that out. And the tie-in with Led Zeppelin was they did the immigrant song, which we come from the land of the ice and snow. Well, that was about coming from Iceland, and that's where Thorfinn Karlsson came from. And he actually brought the first settlement to the United States. It didn't succeed, and was only here about 3 years. But my wife Connie and I went out and found Thorfinn Karlsson standing there by the river, and we did some reading up on him, some research, and Connie made sure that the article came out better than it would have without it. So, but Joe Chilius didn't bring us back quite that far. That was like in the year 1000. He brought us back, though, to our childhood, which always makes me feel so young and so old. Strange feeling. But one of the things he mentioned was the pigeons. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, pigeons are mostly gone. Like, they used to be all over the place. And now, I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure, was it pigeons shooting or what? But they don't seem to be around so much anymore. But I wrote a poem about when they were around. Running under the wires with the pigeons overhead and playing a sort of urban Russian roulette. Of course, all of the pigeons are loaded. But I'm risking a consequence other than death. No worse, but perhaps no better. Some people die before ever being shit on. Others live long enough to be shit on many times. So who were the lucky ones? I guess that depends upon whether or not we get shit on in the afterlife. No one I know knows, so I suppose I'll have to wait to find out. Meanwhile, I may as well just run under the wires with the pigeons overhead. Maybe it'll give me an idea of what the afterlife is like. But Joe brought back many of these feelings, and I still like to try to feel like a kid. I still run across the street like I did when I was a kid. At the other side, though, my hip scolds me, as it never did when I was a kid. You can be replaced, I admonish my hip. The wrath of modern medicine on my side. Yet, at my side, my hip continues its belly aching, grumbling in undertone as I hobble by a noisy playground where kids run full court back and forth tirelessly, like I did when I was a kid. Slowly I limp on, and the lively sounds subside, and through the echoes in my head of games played long ago, I hear my hips piercing reply, "You can be replaced." But you know, it hurts, and people don't want to hear that, though. You know, they'll ask you how you're doing, and they won't wait around for the answer. And if somebody's walking behind you, they want you to move along. They're not going to wait for you to limp by. So if you want them to hold up and maybe listen to how bad you feel, because it'll actually make you feel better to tell them. If you want them to listen, you gotta get aggressive. Pardon me, but I'm in pain. Feel pins and needles in my brain. I'll need a moment to explain, so please don't treat me with disdain. Pardon me, but I'm in pain. Pardon me, but don't be curt. It's hard to keep myself alert when all that I can feel is hurt. I'd be better off inert. Pardon me, but I'm in pain. It's crazy how a man reacts, but oh, how agony distracts. The heavy toll that pain exacts outweighs nature's gracious acts. Pardon me, but I'm in pain. You may feel too well to relate to one who's in a hurtful state and whose discomfort slows his rate. Your patience fails or comes too late. Empathy is not innate, it hasn't touched you yet. But wait, right now it's none of your concern. However, you are bound to learn. Each creature gets its rightful turn. In time, the straightest road will curve. You'll find distress and lose your nerve. You too will get what you deserve, like me, and I'm in pain. Well, pardon me, but I'm in pain. Feel pins and needles in my brain. It may be driving you insane listening to me complain, but until my torments wane, you'll have to bear with this refrain. Pardon me, but I'm in pain. Oh, pardon me, but I'm in pain. Yeah, pardon me, but I'm in pain. There. Now I feel better. Thanks for listening. Joe's reading made me remember a lot of things. I hope you remember this quote. If you believe, clap your hands. Don't let Tink die. Who said that? Peter Pan, that's right. You remember. He was trying to get the audience to help his sick friend, the fairy Tinkerbell, by clapping for her, because Peter Pan realized that fairies, much like entertainers, live for applause. Sure enough, the audience would clap, and Tinkerbell would flicker back to health, and all would be well in those days. And some people call the age of innocence, but I just call them the good old guilt-free days, because We weren't really that innocent, but we just didn't know how guilty we were being. For those good old guilt-free days when our food wasn't forced to wear incriminating labels, so the fat content of your favorite snack could be whatever you damn well pleased. When we never considered the malignancy of cigarettes, when the sun was our friend, X-rays were playthings and we could breathe freely, assured by the knowledge that there was asbestos to safeguard us against fire. We trusted not only in God, but in tap water and table salt, in the American dollar and the American dream, in our banks and our businesses, in our industry and our ingenuity, in our press, in our priests, in our presidents, in our pesticides, in the paint upon our walls, and lastly and mostly in ourselves. For in those days we did not snicker at the mention of the honor system. We found room on our walls and in our hearts for homilies like honesty is the best policy, cheaters never prosper, and the truth will out. Ideals and innocence were sustained like Tinkerbell, because there were those who believed. Perhaps those days were guilt-free for as good a reason as these days are not. Of course Tinkerbell doesn't exist. And you know why? Because no one claps for her anymore. Oh, thank you. I think she's coming back to life. But memory is a wonderful thing, except that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it works too much. And it works counterclockwise. Where does memory begin? It only starts from now to spin counterclockwise. And spin it will around and round until your lifetime is rewound counterclockwise. Time marches us ahead up the hill of hope and fear. We long for foresight, but instead we are bound to face the rear. It is every mortal's curse that we can't foretell our fate. All we see is in reverse, all we understand too late. Back we look and see regret, all the way to the beginning. We do better to forget, but memory spinning, always spinning, counterclockwise.